The galaxy is a vast and noisy library of stories. Some are written in plasma fire, some in whispered treaties. But the oldest, the most coveted stories, are the ones etched into cold, inert metal. Forgotten tools of forgotten times. This story begins not on a battlefield, but on a plush carpet, in the silent pressurized halls of the Galactic Collector's Emporium on Xylos Prime. The air here is perfumed with exotic molecules to soothe 100 different biologies. The light is soft, curated, designed to make every artifact glow with implicit, priceless history. Beings from a dozen star nations float, stride, or ooze through the aisles, their ocular organs fixed on displays holding fragments of cosmic antiquity. A shattered energy shield from the Helios War. A single, fossilized seed from the lost gardens of Lyra. A corrupted data slate purported to hold a map to a precursor outpost. And in a sealed, transparent case at the center of the main hall, rested the prize of the season. To the untrained eye, they were merely objects. Crude, even. Devoid of the sleek, bioluminescent lines of modern tech. One was a long tube of dark, pitted metal, with a simple grip and a trigger mechanism. The other was a collection of smaller tubes, bound together with wire and corrosion. A faded symbol, a circle with 3 curved shapes inside, was barely visible on their stalks. The display hologram shimmered above them, declaring in flowing galactic common. Lot 7, Twin Terran Projectile Ignition Weapons.
Circa pre-Exodus Sera.
Designations, RPG-7 and AK-47. Functional status unknown. Provenance, salvaged from the derelict orbital station Kessler's Shame, Sol system. A profound rarity, genuine artifacts from humanity's violent, primitive adolescence. The ultimate conversation piece for the discerning militaria collector. The auctioneer, a graceful Phylician with iridescent fur, cleared her throat, a sound like chimes. We begin the bidding for Lot 7. A direct link to a fascinatingly brutal chapter of galactic prehistory. Imagine these resting in your private museum, a testament to the journey all civilizations must take from darkness. Do I hear 1 million standard credits? A Grunth warlord, his carapace polished to a mirror shine, raised a claw. 1 million. A sleek, chrome-plated synth from the Mechanist Consortium pulsed a light. 1.5. 2 million, hissed a Vith, a being of shadow and condensed gas, its voice emanating from a translator orb. The bidding was swift, clinical, and astronomical. It was not about the objects as tools. It was about owning a piece of a myth. Humanity, the newcomers, the upstarts who had clawed their way from a death world to the stars in a mere geological blink, were an object of intense curiosity and no small amount of condescension. Their early history, a chronicle of what the galaxy politely termed inefficient conflict, was a source of morbid fascination. Owning these relics was like owning the fang of a legendary, extinct predator. Dangerous only in concept, now safely neutered by time and superior progress. The weapon sold for 47 million credits to the Grunth warlord. He clicked his mandibles in satisfaction, a sound of pure acquisitive pride. The case was de-sealed by gloved attendants using anti-grav lifters, treating the objects with the reverence of radioactive waste. They were placed in a reinforced stasis crate, which was then loaded onto the Gruntha's personal battleship, the Chiton of Pride. As the ship powered its drives and slipped into the shimmering blue of FDL, the auction attendees murmured congratulations. A splendid purchase. A historical curiosity. None of them, not the auctioneer, not the warlord, not the synth with its calculated interest, understood a fundamental truth. They had not purchased relics. They had lit a fuse. The Chiton of Pride was 3 days out from Xylos Prime, in the lonely gulf between spiral arms, when the first parasite ship attached itself. It was a Vith shadowcrawler, a vessel designed for silent running and electronic suffocation. It extended grapnels like black icicles, piercing the Grunth ship's hull with a soundless molecular-level violation. Vith borders, formless as smoke in the corridors, solidified only to slice through bulkhead seals and Grunth sentries with phase cutters. Their target was singular, the cargo hold containing the stasis crate. They were in and out in 6 standard minutes, a ghost of a theft. The Grunth warlord woke to alarms and a gaping hole in his treasury. His rage was a physical thing, heating the chamber air. He had been humiliated. A Gruntha's possessions are part of his carapace. To steal one is to shed a piece of him in disgrace. He did not contact the authorities. This was not a matter for law. This was a matter of honor, of reclaimed property. The chiton of pride altered course, its warlord calling in favors, deploying every spy drone and detode. Within hours, he had a destination, a Vith brokering station in the lawless Gast belt. The Vith, however, were not fools. They knew the Grunth would come. A weapon, even a primitive one, of such renowned infamy had value beyond mere collection. It had symbolic value. On the shadow markets, there were factions, cults, and revanchist empires who would pay double what the Grunth had paid for the prestige, the idea, of wielding a legendary human gun. The Vith had no intention of keeping them. They intended to auction them again, privately, to the highest bidder. But news in the underworld leaks like atmosphere from a punctured hull. The Mechanist Consortium, having lost the bid, saw a more efficient opportunity. Their synth emissary had recorded every molecular scan of the weapons. Their factories, vast and automated, could replicate the form perfectly. But replication was not enough. The value was in the originality, the provenance. A perfect copy was worthless. The original had to be acquired, or destroyed, to maintain the value of their own eventual forgeries. A sleek consortium interceptor, crewed by logic-driven synths, plotted an intercept course for the Gast belt. And then, from the dense inner worlds, came a fourth party, the Celestian Ascendancy. Pacifist philosophers, they viewed the weapons with profound horror. They saw them not as curios, but as metaphysical contaminants, seeds of a primal violence that could infect the galactic psyche. They believed in cosmic sanity, a universal move towards peace and order. These artifacts were antithetical to that belief. A screaming, irrational ghost from a barbaric past. They dispatched a sanctum ship, not to bid, not to steal, but to sanctify and destroy the weapons in the heart of a star, erasing the shameful technology from existence. 4 ships. 4 mutually exclusive intentions: possess, sell, copy, destroy. They converged on the Gast Belt brokering station, a ragged asteroid tethered to a flickering warp gate. The station's Vith overseer, a being who called himself Cthar, watched the sensor feeds with a bubbling sensation akin to amusement. Conflict was bad for business. But a bidding war? That was excellent. He had the stasis crate placed on a pedestal in the station's central concourse, a grimy, dimly lit space smelling of ozone and rust. He sent polite, encrypted hails to all parties. Honored clients, his translated voice whispered into 4 different bridges. The artifacts are here. Why shed precious energy in conflict? Let the market decide. Doc. Enter. Bid. The most rational will win. It was a lie, of course. Cthar knew rationality had left the moment the first bullet was cast on ancient Earth. He was counting on greed, pride, and dogma to take over. And he was right. The Grunth battleship docked with a violent clang, warriors flooding the access tube. The Mechanist interceptor attached with silent, magnetic precision. The Celestian Sanctum ship hovered nearby, broadcasting pulses of calming frequencies. And in the dark, a 5th ship, a pirate scavenger drawn by the commotion, lurked, hoping to pick the bones. The concourse became a tense galactic summit. The Grunth warlord stood before the crate, his warriors forming a half-circle. These are mine. The Vith are thieves. Hand them over, and I may only take their station as compensation. The lead synth pulsed, its voice toneless. Your claim is voided by theft. A new transaction is required. The consortium will pay 15 million. You offer credits for my honor, the Grunth scoffed. Insulting. A Celestian, robed in light-filtering cloth, floated forward, its voice serene. Please. Can you not feel it? The silence within that metal? It is not a silence of peace, but of anticipation. It hungers for chaos. Let us take this burden. Let us guide these tools to a purifying dissolution, for the sanity of all. Cthar the Vith shimmered beside the crate. The current bid is 47 million, set by the Grunth. Do I hear 50? The room crackled with tension. The pirate, watching via hacked camera, licked his lips. The synth calculated probabilities of a successful forceful acquisition. The Gruntha's hand drifted to his plasma caster. The Celestian began a low harmonic chant of pacification. And in the middle of it all, the 2 pieces of old pitted metal sat in their stasis field. Silent. Inert. Utterly ignorant of the storm they had caused. A junior Grunth warrior, eager for favor, snarled at the Celestian. Your sanctimony is noise. These are weapons. Their purpose is to be wielded by the strong. In a moment of bravado, he deactivated the stasis field with a slap of his claw. A collective gasp, mixed with horror and intrigue, filled the concourse. The weapons were now exposed to the open air for the first time in centuries. The Celestian recoiled. Fool! You have unleashed their potential. Potential? Laughed the Grunth warlord, stepping forward. He reached out, grasping the longer weapon, the RPG-7. It was heavier than he expected, dense. He hefted it awkwardly, trying to find a logical grip. It is a lump of dead matter. See? Its terror exists only in your mind, philosopher. He pointed the tube vaguely around the room, causing beings to flinch. He found a simple switch, and with a loud clack, he folded the weapon's sight upright. The sound was shockingly sharp in the tense quiet. Fascinating, droned the synth, scanning intently. Primitive iron-based alloy. Chemical propellant-based ignition system suspected. A single-use device? Highly inefficient. Kthar slithered closer. A demonstration, perhaps? There is a derelict freighter in the nearby debris field. Proof of functionality would dramatically increase the value. The idea took root. A perverse curiosity overcame them all. They would go, all of them, to the debris field. They would see if the myth had any bite. The Grunth, proud to demonstrate his property. The Mechanist, eager for data. The Celestian, horrified but compelled to witness. The Vith, brokering the spectacle. The Pirate, following unseen. It was a parade of fools, marching to the beat of a drum they could not hear. The derelict freighter was a Krogjon bulk hauler, a hollowed-out husk spun gently by an ancient impact. It was perfect for the test, large, durable, and meaningless. The parties gathered in their respective ships, arrayed in a loose semicircle a kilometer away. Only the Grunth warlord, two of his warriors, Kthar, and the lead synth boarded a shuttle to approach the wreck. They stood on the shuttle's extended ramp, floating before the vast, pocked hull of the freighter. The warlord, with the synth's clinical instructions, had located a cylindrical object from the weapon storage tube, the rocket. With clumsy claws, he loaded it into the front of the tube. The principle is basic kinetic force application, the synth explained. Contained chemical explosion propels solid mass. Akin to a crude railgun without electromagnetic coils. The rear blast danger appears significant. Stand clear. The warlord hoisted the tube onto his shoulder, as he'd seen in fragmented human historical records. He peered through the simple iron sight, centering it on the freighter's main cargo bay door. Aim for the center of the door, the synth advised. I know how to aim, the Grunth snapped. He took a deep breath. The galaxy watched. He pulled the trigger. The sound was not what any of them expected. It was not the clean hiss-crack of plasma, or the deep thrum of a particle beam. It was a sound that violated the silence of space, even transmitted through suit comms. A deafening visceral boom from the rear of the tube, a jet of flame erupting backwards, and a sharp tearing crack as the rocket streaked forward. It was fast, but not impossibly so. They could see it, a dumb projectile, trailing fire and smoke, spiraling slightly on its course. It struck the center of the cargo door. The explosion was another universe of sound. A thunderous crump that sent visible shockwaves through the old metal. Not a clean melt hole, but a savage eruption. The door wasn't penetrated, it was eviscerated. Jagged petals of metal the size of shuttles were blasted inward and outward in a storm of shrapnel. A fireball, hungry for the oxygen that wasn't there, bloomed and died instantly inside the bay, but the thermal and kinetic transfer was catastrophic. Secondary explosions rippled through the derelict as old fuel lines and power conduits were shredded. When the debris and silent flash subsided, a gaping ragged wound 20 meters across smoked in the freighter's side. The surrounding hull was bent, twisted, scarred by 1,000 smaller fragments. Silence, deeper than before, filled the comms. The Grunth lowered the tube, smoke wisping from its back. The launcher was now inert, a spent tube. But its message had been delivered. The synth was the first to speak, its voice for the first time lacking perfect calibration. Yield exceeds theoretical projections by 400%. The shrapnel effect, the concussive force, this is not a precision tool. This is an area denial weapon of shocking brutality. The Grunth warlord felt a thrill that was not entirely pride. It was colder, darker. He looked at the broken freighter, then at the smoking tube in his hands. He understood in that moment the difference between a weapon and a tool. A plasma caster was a tool, surgical, efficient, clean. This was something else. This was pure, undiluted violence given physical form. Kthar's translator bubbled with undisguised glee. Magnificent. The value has just tripled. The bidding will recommence at 150 million. The Celestian's voice broke in, trembling with despair. You see? You have tasted the poison. Now, for the sake of your very souls, destroy it. Destroy the other one. The other one. The AK-47. It lay on the shuttle deck where the junior warrior had left it. A new frenzy took hold. The demonstration had not sated curiosity, it had ignited a fever. The pirate ship, seeing its chance, powered forward, weapons charging. We'll be taking that, thank you, a gruff voice declared over open channel. Chaos erupted. The Grunth shuttle lurched as the pirate ship fired a harpoon, grabbing the hull. The mechanist interceptor, calculating the pirate as the primary destabilizing variable, fired a suppressing beam. The Grunth battleship, seeing its warlord under attack, opened fire on the pirate. The Celestian ship launched pacification drones that emitted disabling EMP pulses, which affected everyone equally. In the shuttle, it was a melee. The Grunth warlord grabbed the AK-47, clubbing a boarding pirate with its stock. The synth tried to scan it mid-fight. Kthar attempted to shroud it and flee. In the struggle, the weapon was knocked into the air, spinning in 0G, and sailed out of the shuttle's open ramp, into the cold vacuum. It tumbled, end over end, a silent, dumb piece of history, drifting towards the burning derelict. A collective gasp of loss hit everyone. The fight paused momentarily. Their prize was escaping. But then, the synth sensors picked it up. Trajectory predictable. It will impact the derelict's secondary superstructure in 73 seconds. It will be recoverable. A new race began. Not a battle, but a scramble. Shuttles and EVA suits launched from all vessels, converging on the tumbling weapon like predators on a wounded animal. They were so focused on the prize, they failed to notice the subtle anomaly at first. A distortion in the debris field. A shimmer, like heat haze on a desert road. Then, with a silent flash of blue light that emitted no radiation, a ship appeared. It was small. A scout class. Its design was unfamiliar, angular, pragmatic, coated in a non-reflective gray-black material that seemed to drink the light. It bore no markings, no grandiose sigils. It moved with a quiet, confident thrust, positioning itself between the drifting weapon and the swarm of alien craft. A single, tight-beam transmission lashed out, piercing every vessel's comms simultaneously. Sly. The voice was human. Female. Calm. Utterly, unervingly calm. All parties, this is Lieutenant Mara Singh of the Terran Solstice Federation Vessel Whisper. You are handling a piece of sovereign human historical patrimony. Cease your operations. Stand down. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the EMP drones seemed to pause. The Grunth warlord, back on his bridge, snarled. A human? One scout? You interfere in a matter of honor, little creature. This artifact is my legally purchased property. The synth analyzed. Single vessel. Minimal energy signature. Threat level, negligible. Do not impede commerce. The Celestian pleaded. Human, you of all beings must understand. This technology is an abomination. A relic of your painful past. Let us help you bury it forever. Mara Singh's voice came back, still calm, but with a finality that cut through the void. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. That object is not an artifact. It is UC-47, serial number faded, last assigned to Sergeant Malik Jones, 3rd Orbital Guard. It is a piece of equipment, illegally removed from a war grave. You will disengage. This is your only warning. The alien commanders exchanged glances, digital, literal, or metaphorical. A warning? From this? The pirate captain laughed outright over the open channel. Or what, human? You'll throw history books at us. The human ship, the Whisper, didn't respond. It simply moved. It didn't charge weapons. It didn't raise shields. It executed a short, precise burn, placing itself directly in the path of the lead pirate EVA suit, which was seconds from grabbing the drifting rifle. The pirate, enraged, fired his suit's cutting laser at the Whisper's hull. The beam connected, and did nothing.
No scorch, no melt.
The gray-black coating absorbed the energy without a flicker. "Fine, have it your way," the pirate captain yelled, and his ship, a converted corvette, swung its 2 forward plasma cannons and fired a full-strength barrage at the Whisper. The twin lances of star-hot plasma crossed the distance. They struck the small scout ship amidships. And they splashed. Like water on a hot stone. Tendrils of plasma cascaded over the hull, dissipating harmlessly into space. The Whisper didn't even shudder. On every bridge, sensor officers stared at their readings in disbelief. No thermal transfer. No kinetic impact. Energy diffusion at 99.99% efficiency.
How?
Mara's voice returned. "You have fired upon a Terran vessel. This is now a military engagement. Stand by." The Whisper's only visible weapon, a small dorsal turret, swiveled. It didn't glow. It didn't charge. It simply emitted a pulsed violet beam for a fraction of a second. It struck the pirate corvette's primary power relay, a component buried deep under meters of armor. There was no explosion. The pirate ship simply went dark. Every light died. Every engine sputtered out. It was a floating, inert hulk. A single precision surgical strike that had bypassed all shields, all armor, as if they weren't even there. The galaxy held its breath. The human ship then moved again, with that same unnerving economical grace. It extended a small grapple, and with insulting ease, plucked the tumbling AK-47 from the void. It retracted the grapple, securing the weapon. "The relic is secured," Mara reported. "We will now recover the launcher tube from the Grunth shuttle. Please comply." The Grunth warlord was apoplectic. "You will not. Warriors, destroy that ship." Full barrage. The chitin of Pride unleashed hell. Plasma bolts, kinetic railgun slugs, proton lances, a spectacle of firepower that could level a small city. It filled space with destructive energy. The Whisper didn't dodge. It didn't run. It activated its main drive and flew into the barrage. It weaved through the kinetic slugs with impossible, fractal-patterned micro-adjustments. The energy weapons struck it, and were absorbed, dissipated, or harmlessly reflected. It was like watching a shark swim through a school of luminous, harmless fish. It emerged from the other side of the firestorm unscathed, coming to a dead stop relative to the stunned Grunth shuttle. The dorsal turret pulsed twice. 2 violet beams. One severed the harpoon line from the pirate ship. The other gently, precisely, severed the magnetic clamp holding the spent RPG tube to the shuttle's deck. A third grapple caught it. "Recovery complete," Mara said. Her voice held no gloating.
No anger.
Just professional completion of a task. "All parties, you will power down your weapons and submit to inspection for any further stolen human cultural items. Failure to comply will be met with decisive response." The mechanist synth sent a frantic encrypted data burst to the consortium. "Recommend immediate capitulation. Technology gap is not a gap. It is a chasm. Their defensive and targeting systems operate on principles we cannot sense, let alone counter. They are not using better weapons. They are using something else." The Celestian Elder, his dogma shattered, whispered to his crew. "They are not haunted by the ghost. They are its master. They walked through that fire and emerged clean. What manner of beings have we insulted?" The Grunth warlord, his honor in tatters, stared at the viewscreen showing the small, gray, unassuming ship. His mighty battleship was impotent. His warriors were baffled. The human hadn't even fought them. She had ignored them. A smaller shuttle detached from the Whisper. It docked with the Grunth battleship. No permission was asked. The human docking clamp simply overrode the airlock protocols. Lieutenant Mara Singh stepped onto the chitin of Pride. She was not what they expected. She wore a simple, dark gray environment suit, unadorned. She carried no visible weapon. She was of average human height, which made her seem small among the hulking grunth. But her presence filled the corridor. Her eyes swept over the warriors, not with contempt, but with an assessment so complete it was unnerving. She was followed by a technician, who carried a case. The warlord met her in the trophy hall, where the stasis crate had been. "You invade my ship, human. You steal my property. You will die for this." Mara looked at him. "Warlord Grash, you purchased items from a thief. The station Kessler's Shame is a designated memorial site. What you call salvage, we call desecration. We are here to rectify that. They are primitive tools." Grash roared. "What care do you have for them? You have technology that makes them look like stones and sticks." Mara walked to the center of the room. Her technician opened the case. Inside, resting on a neutral field, were the RPG tube and the AK-47. "You are correct," Mara said, her voice softer now, carrying to the silent observers on the other ships via open comms. "Technologically, these are to us what a sharpened flint is to a particle scalpel. They are obsolete by every metric of engineering, efficiency, and ethics." She reached out and, with a touch that was neither reverent nor fearful, picked up the AK-47. She inspected the faded serial number. "This," she said, holding it up, "is not a weapon to us. Not anymore." "Then what is it?" the mechanist synth's voice asked over the comm, genuinely puzzled. Mara's gaze grew distant. "It is a teacher. A brutal, uncompromising, and vital teacher. Every scratch on this stock, every pit in this barrel, teaches a lesson we swore never to forget." She looked at Grash, then at the visual pickups, speaking to the galaxy. "It teaches that a tool designed solely to end life, as efficiently and cheaply as possible, is a failure of imagination. It teaches that when you solve every problem with lead and fire, you run out of problems, but you also run out of everything else. It teaches the weight of a life taken from a kilometer away with the pull of a trigger. It teaches the sound of a child screaming in a room this weapon has entered." She placed the rifle back in the case. "We kept these. We preserved them. Not to worship them. Not to sell them. But to remember. To force every new generation to look this failure in the eye and say, 'Never again.' Our advanced technology you saw today? Its primary design parameter is not lethality. It is restraint. It is the ability to stop a fight without killing. To defend without destroying. It is the child of the lesson this ugly piece of metal beat into our collective soul over centuries of blood and sorrow." The Celestian elder, tears of a sort in his eyes, spoke. "Then, you agree? They should be destroyed." Mara shook her head. "No. To destroy the lesson is to risk repeating it. We must remember the darkness we are capable of, or we will never truly appreciate the light we strive for. This gun is a mirror. And you," she said, looking around at all of them, "you have been fighting over your own reflection. You saw the ghost of our violence and called it power. You saw the echo of our pain and called it treasure." She turned to Grash. "You wanted a weapon to make you feel strong. But true strength isn't in taking life. It's in preserving it, even when you have the absolute power to end it. We learned that the hard way. It is the only reason our species is still here to have this conversation." The technician closed the case. Mara gave a final, sweeping look. "The Federation will be auditing all major antiquities markets for illegally obtained human items. They will be repatriated. This incident is concluded. Do not follow us." They left as they came, quietly, calmly. The shuttle departed. The whisper gathered it in, and with another silent blue flash, vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving no trace. The concourse was quiet. The derelict freighter still smoldered. The disabled pirate ship drifted. The mighty Grunth battleship sat silent. The mechanist synth's logic. Cores were overheating with new, unsettling equations. The Celestians' hymns of peace felt hollow, naive. Kthar the Vith, his prophet evaporated, whispered the truth they all now felt. We were not fighting over weapons. We were fighting over the shadow of a monster. And then the monster came to take its shadow back, and showed us it was no monster at all. The Grunth warlord Grash finally walked to his viewport, looking at the stars where the human ship had vanished. The pride was gone. The avarice was gone. In its place was a cold, humbling understanding. He had seen a power so far beyond his own it was incomprehensible. And that power had been exercised not for conquest, not for plunder, but to reclaim 2 pieces of scrap metal, and to deliver a lesson. He thought of his own warlike culture, their glorious histories of conquest sung in halls of polished chitin. He thought of the human, holding that ancient, ugly rifle, speaking not of glory, but of shame, of lessons written in blood. For the first time in his life, Warlord Grash felt not strength in a weapon, but weakness. And in the human's terrifying principled restraint, he felt a strength so profound it shook him to his core. The story spread, of course. From the Gast Belt to the core worlds. The tale of the human weapons that sparked a microwar, and the human who ended it without firing a single shot in anger. Historians revisited Earth's archives, not just the military records, but the philosophical ones. The great post-Exodus reckonings. The Geneva Conventions. The Butlerian jihads against AI weaponry. The zero-casualty doctrine. They began to see a pattern not of a species mastering war, but of a species wrestling with, and ultimately mastering, its own capacity for violence. The galaxy had always defined advancement by sharper swords, stronger shields. Humanity had redefined it by asking a question no one else had thought to ask in earnest. How do we put the sword down forever and still survive? The answer, it turned out, was not in forgetting the sword. It was in remembering its weight, its cost, its terrible purpose, and building a universe where it never needed to be drawn again. The artifacts were placed in the Museum of Contrition on Mars, in a simple display. The plaque read, "Tools of a Forgotten Necessity. Reminders of an Endless Lesson. We are not better because we left these behind. We left these behind because we chose to be better." And for the first time, staring not at human warships or terraformed worlds, but at their quiet, deliberate shame and their hard-won restraint, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If this story of memory over might moved you, subscribe for more tales of humanity, not as the galaxy's warriors, but as its weary, wise, and watchful guardians.